So I have an interesting one for you today. I'm going to be testing a couple different products here in my ultrasonic cleaner to see how well they can remove rust from bolts. I've watched a couple of videos on YouTube already that gave me the idea for some of these, but I wanted to do it for myself, and I thought, why not film it as I go? So these are all bolts in different states of degradation here. At the top, I'm going to have a couple different groups. There's going to be 5 groups, as you can see. I tried to pick ones that were all in the same condition, so it would be as homogeneous as I could between the different products. So at the top, these are badly rusted bolts that look like they're salvaged from the wreck of the Titanic. These are the kind of bolts that I normally give up on and not bother, but I thought that they would make an interesting contribution to this test, really push the limits of these products. Below that, this is more in line with what I deal with and most of these bolts that I'm going through. So the tops of them, as you can tell, they were previously yellow dichromate zinc plated, but the tops have obviously lost that protection. However, the actual shanks of the bolts and everything down there, which was inside the engine block, is fine. So this is a more typical use case for me personally, and I think this is going to be the most representative for kind of the middle of the road bolts that it's like, you won't reuse them for cosmetic reasons, but they're probably completely fine. So up here, these are just M10 lock nuts. They're all just, rusty. I'm not reusing them. I never reuse lock nuts like this, but just to have one more. So we'll have some internal threads that we can look at and see how that works, something different. And these are really small M6 fasteners. They're kind of in the same general condition as these, but I think they have more grime on them. And I did not degrease any of these. I pulled these right out of my parts spare bolts bin. So it'll be interesting to see if any of these can get through the crud. And then down here, these are some more bolts that I just thought were possible throwaways. I guess they're in the same kind of condition as these, but we'll just have one more sample so that just in case there's any inconsistency, there will be a second reference. And lastly, these are exhaust manifold studs. And on these, I'm not reusing these. I'm not really going to reuse most of these, but these, I believe, had copper flashed lock nuts on here that were just so seized onto the studs that when I went to remove the nuts, the whole stud came out. So these are 40-year-old studs. So it'll be interesting to see how it works around these details and also how the copper comes out looking. So let's talk about these 4 products that are going to go head to head here. Starting on the left is Simple Green. This is from concentrate. I'm going to probably do 50-50 with water. I'm going to say this is the control because this is what I'm using for my ordinary everyday ultrasonic bath. It's not really a rust removal solution in itself, but just to, again, as a control. Then here I have some cleaning vinegar. It's extra strength, 9% acidity white vinegar. And I'm just going to do that straight, not cut with any water. And that'll kind of be our, not quite a control, but of the three non-controls, this will be the one that's probably the most mundane. And I know that vinegar removes rust. I just know it doesn't remove rust as quickly as some other things does, such as evaporust. So this is, it says it right on the front. It's obviously a product targeting rust. I have used it the other day on some other parts in the ultrasonic cleaner. Now, these have been soaking for about 24 hours after that bath. I think I did a really good job, so we'll be interested to see how this does. Then lastly is kind of the dark horse in the race, and that is this toilet bowl cleaner. This says that it has it says 0% bleach, but it's got hydrogen peroxide. I saw a YouTube video where the guy claimed that this was actually a better rust removal solution than evaporust for the ultrasonic cleaner. So anyway, as you can see, there's 4 of a kind in all of these, and I'm just going to be splitting it up. I'm going to put everything in this glass jar that I've been using, clean it out every time between runs. I'm going to do 20 minutes at 50 C temperature, so everything is going to be consistent there. And then as far as the cleaner itself, this is a 6-liter unit, and it's going to be inside this glass jar. So right now I have some older Simple Green solution floating around in there, but eventually a lot of these bolts are going to end up on that engine. But right now it's warming up, so I'm going to stop the video here, and I will come back after the control is done. All right, the results are in. I did all 4 here. So going from, let's see, so we have Simple Green. I did it in order. So this is like simple green, vinegar, Evapo Rust, and then the toilet bowl cleaner. We can go ahead and start with these ones at the top. So lighting might let me down. But in general, the simple green, there's some clean metal showing. But obviously it's, not really in a state to be used or zinc plated as is. The vinegar, I'm not really sure. Maybe it's a little bit cleaner, but kind of the same conclusion. The Evapo Rust, there's a significantly more advanced amount of removal here. So I feel like if I were to put this in maybe for another 20 minutes, maybe 20 minutes after that, I could get it back to looking pretty much ready to zinc plate or otherwise. The toilet bowl cleaner, it looks just like how it was when I put it in. So that's last place. I'd say first place on this one goes to the Evapo Rust. Last place goes to the toilet bowl cleaner, with vinegar not being that much different, actually. Now on these here, recall, these were ones that pretty much were, the plating was still intact from the head down, but the top was just kind of oxidized. So the simple green, there wasn't really a big change at all. I think it did, a good job of maybe cleaning off some of a small amount of grime that was on it, but further treatment still needed, but it's kind of neutral. Interestingly enough, the vinegar, I think, made it worse. On the top, it looks like it's actually maybe effective at removing some of the corrosion. It looks a little bit shinier than the others. That's not zinc plating, that's just gonna be base metal there. But then the rest of it actually looks worse, especially the threads. Recall before they had pretty good intact zinc plating down here. My theory for that is that of all of these, they're probably solvents to some extent, but the vinegar is not a solvent. So whenever it kicks up any debris, be that rust or grime or grease, it doesn't dissolve it in the solution. So I think a lot of it just settled down on this bowl. It actually made it look dirtier. However, there is some progress on the top where we saw the corrosion. Now the Evapo Rust did a great job. So you can see on the top there, it's better than the vinegar as far as how effective it was at removing that corrosion on the top at the expense of removing the zinc plating from the bottom. That's okay, because I'm going to be doing a lot of zinc plating, and that requires an acid pickle before you put it in, so that would have been stripped off anyhow, so it doesn't really bother me. But just an FYI, if you do use Evapo Rust on stuff that's already zinc plated or otherwise, and that might be an unpleasant side effect that you have to deal with. And toilet bowl cleaner, well, this just looks crap overall. Didn't help out any corrosion on the top. This all looks worse. This is probably just residue. If I was to manually clean this off, I'm sure it would look okay. But I'm going to give the first place again to Evapo Rust, and then the last place to toilet bowl cleaner, because at least the vinegar looks crap. I think if I put this in the Ultrasonic cleaner with some simple green or dish soap, it would come out at least looking a little bit more decent. But yeah, same thing, basically. Evapo Rust first, toilet bowl cleaner last. Let's go to the lock nuts. So interestingly enough, the simple green control looks like it did a really good job of getting it back down to base metal. There's some stuff left behind, but again, we only did 20 minutes. So on the inside threads, it doesn't look like it really did a good job, but honestly, this isn't that bad at all. The vinegar, yeah, it's not done, but there's progress, and I can see on the inside threads there's improvement. So it's not terrible. Evapo Rust, it's a little bit more matte, silvery gray than the others, but there's obvious progress. I don't see a lot of big blotches of crap like there were on the simple green specimen. And on the vinegar, I think that there's more splotchy areas. So again, Evapo Rust seems like, so far, I mean, it's going to need further post-processing, but hey. And toilet bowl cleaner, to no one's surprise at this point, it looks pretty rough. It's just as rusty as it was before, but the rest is almost just rearranged. I don't know. Again, I'm not sure how much of this is residue or flash rust, but I mean, these all came out in the last 45 minutes, an hour. I dried everything off with this napkin to remove any moisture so they wouldn't flash rust. So I'm not really understanding why that didn't work so well. Onto these smaller M6. Now, again, these had a lot of grime on them. So I'm not sure how much of it was rust and how much of it was just caked on grease and stuff. Simple Green did a decent job of getting through that grime. And I'm not sure how much rust was underneath, but that's a salvageable bolt. Not that I would, because these cost about 8 cents on Bellmetric. The vinegar, really big letdown on that. Not really that much better. Maybe a little bit cleaner, but still crap. The Evapo Rust, again, I could see this after 20 more minutes possibly becoming serviceable for zinc plating. And then toilet bowl cleaner, possibly worse than when I put it in. So, next category. These were kind of, again, like these. They were just kind of the heavier side of the spectrum as far as rust goes. Simple Green just made the rust clean. Still very much rusted. Vinegar, there's a little bit of progress. I'm starting to see a few areas where it improved, but overall, I wouldn't call that solved. Evapo Rust, you know, it did better than the other ones, but it's not done. It's going to need some more time. And then Toilet Bowl Cleaner. Now, kind of right below the head of the bolt, I'm seeing some areas of base metal. So it's got me thinking that, you know, maybe there is a time when it works okay, because I didn't see that quite that much on the others. But then again, these were just bolts that I picked out in my bolt tray. Maybe this one wasn't as rusty to begin with. Maybe it was more grime than it was rust. But I'm noticing a similarity on the toilet bowl cleaner ones. It's got this kind of orangey brown crust on it, even though I rinsed everything off in water before I set them out. So yeah, that's definitely a commonality for all of these. Going over to the exhaust manifold studs, this is Simple Green. Kind of see some of that copper coming through now on that lock nut at the top. The actual threads in the stud here, I'm pretty sure these are just ordinary steel studs. They're not stainless or anything, just judging by the rust that was there before. But yeah, I mean, okay, it did something. It cleaned up the stud a little bit. The vinegar, similar thing. I'm starting to see some of the copper come through, but the rest of the stud is possibly even more grungy than it was when I put it in. Again, probably because vinegar is not a solvent. That stuff has nowhere to go except just to float around and land on other things. Evapo Rust did a great job on the stud, but on this copper flash lock nut, it's a little bit better, but it didn't really break off any of the crap that was on it. And then lastly, the toilet bowl cleaner. Here's our familiar orangey brown finish. It barely touched it. I mean, it might be a little bit cleaner just from the ultrasonic action, but I'm going to give this one to the Evapo Rust. So anyway, I guess higher level, the Evapo Rust obviously won, right? And the toilet bowl cleaner, I'm starting to think that maybe I just didn't get the right one. Like, there's obviously a lot of different toilet bowl cleaners on the market, and this is just the one that I picked up. I thought that, hey, this is like a name brand, and anyway, I probably just got the wrong one. If there's a specific type of toilet bowl cleaner that should be used, then let me know in the comments down below. I would say that I would actually use Simple Green before I used vinegar for rust removal, which is odd because vinegar definitely works against rust, breaks it down. However, it's not a solvent. This is. And I think that just some of these results, like look at our lock nuts, you're going to have a much better shot of success using something that is a solvent because it's going to be able to just absorb all the crap that comes off instead of just letting it float around and land on other things and make them look worse than when they started, such as this. And then the other takeaway I want to talk about is possibly just degreasing the parts before you put them into an ultrasonic rust removal, which might sound like common sense. And I didn't do it just because I really wanted to, make sure and take that out of the equation. But I think that if we did remove the grime and maybe we did everything in the simple green and then we went into these three, I still think Evaporust would do a much better job, because obviously it was able to get through a lot of the crap, even though we didn't degrease it first. So I don't like doing things like, I don't want to do a degreasing run, then an Evaporust run or whatever. So I think you're going to be okay with just something like Evaporust, and maybe lightly degrease it first, soak it maybe in some gasoline, simple green, whatever you're going to use. But that's what I found to be effective, guys. It's Evaporust, and that does work. It did a much better job than the vinegar, the toilet bowl cleaner, and the simple green. So thanks for tuning in, and best of luck.